Facebook follower, I joined a page that looked interesting. A few days later I received a message from a man who started following me on Facebook and Instagram. He was the admin of the page. He looked familiar. I dismissed it as average old white guy with a beer gut. I took no immediate action. But he and his son started commenting on my feed. The page had a gothic theme. But as time went on, the memes were replaced more and more often by photos of young people in gothic dress. The posts inundated my feed. I was missing posts from family, so, after parking outside of one of my workplaces, one day, I unfollowed the page. I deleted this page admin from my Instagram. I disabled Instagram. I do that off and on, when it becomes redundant. No worries, right? Some guy, someplace. Won't notice. No problem, blocking him did not work in the way I expected. I went to work. I went out to the front of the area. I see hundred of people in a day. But, this guy came running into the door of the business holding his phone. He was running. He stopped 6 feet from me. He looked at the phone. He looked back at me. He ran out the door. The page admin was stalking me. Let's not meet again, Marine. Let's not meet again. Facebook creep. What I'm about to tell you happened a while back when I was around 13 to 14 years old, now 18. I had just made myself a Facebook account. I had a huge crush on this guy who used to be my neighbor and had just moved out of my street. I was super sad that I wouldn't see him again, until a beautiful surprise one night, opening my Facebook account, with a friend request from him. My heart was racing and I was ecstatic. We started talking a bit, but nothing really interesting or attention-seeking for me to develop. But one night, we started a regular convo as we would usually, and then it got really scary. All of a sudden he started claiming he wasn't my crush, that he had hacked his account and knows a lot about me. He knew my entire name, which wasn't written on my Facebook profile. I had put in a weird half-cut version of it. Wasn't easy to guess what would be the complete one. I had spoken to my crush about how we used to be neighbors and he moved out of name of my street. Now this creep began threatening me on how he would come get me at my house. Because I was young and beautiful, his wife is getting old and wasn't satisfying his young blood. As a 13 to 14-year-old, I was completely freaked out, shaking on my desk chair staring at this conversation. At one point I thought maybe my crush was just fucking with me, as he did have this low-key weird personality. I asked him and he sent me a picture of himself that was clearly taken within seconds as it was blurry, nasty quality. On the picture, an ugly, old wrinkly 40 to 50-year-old skinny man. Looking like he had been taking crack. I was going out of my mind, panicking. My mother had warned me previously on how I shouldn't be making a social media account at this age, but stubborn me, I did not listen. Now I was scared. I didn't want to tell my mother because I knew she'd be dead mad at me. It was around 1 a.m. at night and I did not know what to do. I ended up just blocking my crush's account and going to bed, trying to move on and telling myself that he was probably just trying to scare me off. I was wrong. About an hour later, I received a phone call on my cell phone from an unknown number. I picked up. It was the man. I told you I knew a lot about you, baby, let's talk. I hung up. At this point I was just so done with it. Full-on panic attack. I woke up my mother and told her everything. She asked me to print the conversations. I did, and told me she'd take care of it when the morning comes. The next day I went to school. My mom was working from home that day. When I came back that evening, my mother told me the creep rang on the door around lunchtime, insisting a couple of times on the bell and knocking through my window glass door. Mother called the police immediately. She took the plate number of his van as he left it turned on right in front of my house while he was trying so hard to get an answer from all his knocking and ringing. It ended being a wanted sex offender that was charged with multiple infractions including his creeping trying to get minors. To this day I still don't have a Facebook. Keep my social media extremely low-key. You never know what creep can be behind the other screen. Never date anyone who pokes you on Facebook before anyone stats the obvious. I should have bailed out well before I did. I dated my last serious boyfriend for around 6 years, and throughout the whole of those 6 years, I always received pokes off of a fella on Facebook. I didn't think too much of it and we had like 30 friends in common. Southwest, I figured maybe I had met him somewhere along the way. Besides, he was muscly and quite attractive, so having the additional attention was fun, I guess. A couple of weeks after my ex and I split, he private messaged me asking if we could meet. We chatted for a while and I eventually agreed to go for a meal with him. On first date terms, it was a pretty lovely one, nice meal, walk under the stars blah blah. After a few weeks of seeing him, I noticed little traits in his behavior that I found to be particularly strange. He would never let me in his house and would leave me standing outside. One day I stood outside his house for 45 minutes at 10:30 p.m. as we had walked there. I didn't know where the hell I was and he decided that I had given him the hump for no apparent reason. This is where I should have bailed out. The following Friday I figured I would give him the benefit of the doubt and invited him round. He stayed for 9 days. I had to text a friend asking her to pick me up and not invite him just to get him out. I figured I would leave it now, until he turned up on my doorstep the next day. I told him I wasn't very well and that I had a pretty serious water infection, sorry guys, which was met with a lot of accusations of cheating and being called a slag. This was the final straw and I told him to leave and not to bother contacting me. Every day I received text after text. Missed call after missed call. I blocked him on Facebook so he messaged all of my friends begging them to convince me to take him back. Hell no. I figured that after time, he would back away. Things went quiet for a week. It was bliss until I received a call off of a number I didn't know. It was him asking me who the man who had just walked in my front door was. By the way, it was my daddy. This happened every time someone walked in my flat, male, female, black, white, anyone. Turned out he knew someone who lived across the street from me and had him and his lovely girlfriend watching my every move. Things calmed again after speaking to the couple and explaining the grief it had caused me. He told them that we were still together and he was concerned for my safety, and I thought he had got the message until one day when I finished work and caught the bus home. I had this perfectly timed so that I would always be pulling up to my estate at 6 p.m. As I strolled down the hill to my estate, ready to cut through the alley for the garages, I noticed a figure tucked away in the shadows in the corner. It was him. I kept my head up and marched onwards to my front door. He followed a distance behind until I reached the door and ran after me and chased me up the stairs in the block of flats I lived in. I told him that I wasn't interested, that he was crazy, that he needed help. Where he felt that maybe a hug would change my mind on the situation. After letting out a massive scream for my neighbor, he was escorted out of the building and was told that if he returned, it would probably be the last thing he ever done. At least I have learned now not to date people off Facebook and run a background check on any future partners. Anonymous person harassing me for 6 months, so far, over Facebook and Blogger. So at the starting of this year I, 34F, was happily living my life, when I get this odd Facebook request, a girl I didn't recognize at all. I went to the profile and noticed we had like 70 friends in common, but I also noticed these were friends that would not be common to anybody, different countries, cities, social circles, so I knew something was up. I also noticed that the profile had been created in 2012. But nothing had been posted since then. So I messaged the person, "Hi, I don't remember you, where did we meet?" No answer for like 2 weeks. At the time I was feeling really distracted by FB, and unsettled by this friend request, so I closed my FB. Around a week later I get texts on my phone telling me to be careful, that somebody was speaking badly about me. The next day a friend calls me up to let me know this girl had posted a picture of me, saying I was a slut, an old alcoholic bitch who had STDs and that I had slept with her boyfriend. That I would sleep with anybody for a bottle of beer. A bunch of my friends were commenting defending me. She replied calling me abusive, saying I never graduated uni, and the usual slut/bitch insults. She replies to my message, although my account is closed, Messenger is still active, calling me a bitch. I also get a message from another account telling me something very bad would happen, and that people were talking shit about me. I proceed to block and report her and this other account. Many of my friends reported her profile and post, however it was not removed. Instead she closes it on her own, I think because several people started commenting negatively on her post. Time passes, no sign of her, my FB is still closed and I am happy. 1 month ago, she opens the account again, the picture and comments still there, starts sending requests to friends of my friends. I am again alerted about this. I report to Facebook. Post stayed up for 3 days. Some of my friends message her, she replies telling them I slept with her boyfriend, sometimes her husband, and that I was a bitch with STDs. A few days later I get a message from a third account, with fake screenshots of chats she supposedly had with my friends. The message also says she is threatening to go to my house and hit me. More friends alert me, she is sending them messages asking for information about me, with the usual bitch/slut insults and the story about her husband/boyfriend. By this point she has amassed 3,000 plus friends. Additionally, she lets them know she will be creating a blog about me showing sexual pictures and videos of me, which I don't have. Sure enough, a couple of days ago she creates the blog, showing any picture of me she could find, the screenshots of fake chats with friends, naming random bars where I can be found drinking and easily fucked, and enlisting rock bands I slept with. She floods all FB groups, pages, and events in my small city with the link to this blog and the usual insults about me. She also sends the link as a message to every account she can, I imagine. I guess that after a bunch of people reported the account, it was closed. However, the two others continue posting the blog link everywhere they can. I also received texts asking me to kill myself and letting me know this is not even the beginning. I have no idea how to make this stop and am somewhat afraid this person moves from the online world to the real world. I have no idea who this is, the behavior she describes is fake and doesn't really make sense. At this point I just hope he or she gets into an accident that doesn't allow her or him to move for months, and I hope to never meet her or him again, be it in real life or in virtual life. Dear anonymous stalker, may we never meet again in any way. Don't hire people off Facebook classifieds. We moved into a house in the country about 4 months ago. Since we'd previously lived in an apartment, that means we needed to buy a lawnmower. Instead of putting out $200+ on a lawnmower when we have to move in a few years, we decided to hire somebody to cut our grass. Initially we went with a guy that my fiancé used to work with, but $65 every 2 weeks starts to add up and I was looking for something cheaper. That brings me to Charles. Charles posted in my Facebook classified that he was looking for some lawns to cut this weekend and he had a reputable company. So I sent him a message. Initially, Charles came off as nice. He asked for my address so he could stop by and give me an estimate. After stopping by my house he sent me a message saying, "Damn sweetheart, you got a big porch." It made me kinda uncomfortable, but figured I was overreacting and started planning when he could come out. I told him my off days, but he assured me I didn't have to be home. I told him to come Wednesday. Wednesday morning he messaged me, "Are you home?" I said no. 3 hours later, "Are you home yet?" I told him no, I won't be home till after 8. Charles then informed me his tire had a flat, and he could come tomorrow, Thursday. First thing in the morning he messaged me, "Will you be home today?" I told him no. He messages back a few hours later, "Hey, are you home?" I said no, I told you I wouldn't be home all day, are you still coming out? He then told me his truck broke down. He was sending messages like, "Please don't be upset with me, sweetheart." At this point I was getting really creeped out. I told him just come tomorrow. Friday, it's actually my off day, but I woke up and left the house for the day. He messages me, "Hey, I'm coming. You're off today, right?" I said yes, but I'm not home. "When will you be home?" "I don't know." He messaged me later saying, "Sorry babes, L was loading the equipment onto my truck and it fell and broke. Maybe I can come tomorrow." At this point I was really creeped out and I told him never mind, I'm gonna find somebody else. Saturday, I get off work around 4 or 5 and check my phone and find multiple messages from him saying that he had cut my grass and I need to come home and give him the money. I told him no, I'll cash app it to you. He started getting really irate and saying that I need to give him the money now. I told him I would give them the money after I got home and thought the grass was cut. I was honestly really worried he would be waiting at my house, so I got a friend to drive home behind me. He wasn't there. I sent him the money and I thought that was the end of it. Fast forward to 2 months later. I'm on the phone my fiancé as I drive to class and he tells me he has to get off the phone because there's somebody walking down our driveway. I asked what he meant, and he said there was a man walking around in our driveway and front yard. After I got to class he texted me telling me it was just a man who had come by to promote his lawn care business. I didn't think anything about it as it had been 2 months, but later that night I got home and saw a business card laying on my counter with the name of the man who had been messaging me earlier. I called my fiancé Mike at work and asked how the guy had been acting. He said Charles seemed genuinely surprised that a man had come out, and asked if he lived alone. I asked Mike if the man had stopped at any other houses and he replied, "Now that I think about it, no." After he left our house he just left. Mike said he had seemed really desperate to help around the house and offered to cut the lawn, fix our porch, remove any trash or scrap metal we had around the house, and then asked if we had pests such as bats in our attic or anything. That especially freaked me out as we do have a bat problem and I had previously posted about it on Facebook. Mike then said what was really weird is Charles was very freaked out about the dog. He heard Max barking from inside and started asking a lot of questions like, is he big? Does he stay outside or inside? Does he ever go outside or is he stay inside completely? How big is he? Is he nice? Mike chalked it up to him being scared of dogs. He gave him a brief tour of the outside of the house and then Charles got in his truck and left. I then told Mike that this was the same guy who had been messaging me earlier in the year and Mike began to freak out. He said that Charles had asked a lot of really specific questions about who all lived here, how long they'd lived here and where they were at the time. He said he tried to brush them off but Charles seemed really insistent to know if Mike was the only one in the house, before he left. Mike specifically asked him if he had cut the lawn here before or something and maybe was thinking of the last owners, but Charles told him no, I just happened to be out this way and thought I'd promote my business, the neighborhood. The worst part, I had taken my fiance's car to work that day, which means my car was in the driveway when Charles stopped by. He thought I was home alone. I didn't contact the police because I thought I might be overreacting. This all happened 2 days ago and I really hope that we never meet again.